She made me watch her new man walk into our house, sit on my couch, and call my wife baby while she looked right at me and smirked like I was furniture. Then she told me, loud and slow, "This is what an open marriage looks like. Get used to it." I stood there holding 2 grocery bags like a fool, eggs sweating through the carton, my throat tight with shame. She didn't flinch, didn't soften, didn't care that my hands were shaking. She wanted me humiliated, wanted it to land in my bones. Here's how it happened. I'm William, born and raised in Baltimore, the kind of young man who believed love was a promise you keep, not a vibe you chase. I was the guy who packed lunch for my wife when she forgot to eat, the guy who fixed the sink at midnight because she liked the sound of running water when she slept. I didn't see the storm coming because I kept mistaking warning signs for stress. I thought we were building a life. Turns out, somebody was building a show. We met at a cookout in Druid Hill Park, the kind with loud music, folding chairs, and aunties who judge your plate before you take a bite. She was laughing so hard she snorted, just a little, and didn't even try to hide it. That's what got me. Everybody tries to be cute. She was just happy. I offered her the last piece of jerk chicken like it was an engagement ring. She said, "That's brave, Mr. Stranger." I said, "I'm brave for you." Corny. Effective. Our first date was basically a long walk because neither of us had money like that. We split 1 crab cake sandwich and argued about who got the bigger half. She accused me of math crimes. I accused her of sandwich theft. She wiped sauce off my chin with her thumb like she'd known me forever, and my whole chest lit up. Later, in my car, we listened to old-school R&B and sang so badly the radio sounded offended. I remember thinking, this is the easy kind of love. The wedding was small, family in matching shades of brown and gold, a DJ who played Frankie Beverly like it was a constitutional requirement. My uncle cried like he was watching a movie about himself. Her mama hugged me tight and said, "Don't embarrass my baby." I promised I wouldn't. Everybody laughed. If I could go back, I'd tell that younger me the truth. You can keep your promises and still get punished by someone who never planned to keep theirs. The early years were regular, beautiful. We danced in the kitchen while rice boiled over because we were too busy grinding to the beat. We once tried a romantic bubble bath in our tiny apartment, but the tub was so small our knees looked like they were trying to escape. She screamed when the water got too hot, and I slipped, grabbed the curtain, and pulled it down like an action scene. We laughed so hard we couldn't breathe. That memory still stings because it was real. That part was real. After I got promoted at my job, logistics, long shifts, good benefits, I started carrying more of the bills. I didn't mind. I felt proud. She said she wanted to rebrand her career, maybe get into media, maybe do content. I told her to go for it. I bought her a laptop, a ring light, and a microphone. She kissed my forehead and said, "You always believe in me." I didn't hear the hidden part. "You're always willing to fund me." Then the late nights started. Networking, she'd say, sliding past me smelling like a different world, sweet perfume and city air. She'd keep her phone face down like it was allergic to light. If I asked questions, she'd laugh, not kindly. "Why you acting like my daddy?" she'd say. It wasn't a joke. It was a warning. She started calling my concern control, my confusion insecurity, my love clingy. Words can be knives when somebody wants to cut you down to size. The first time she really embarrassed me was at her cousin's birthday in D.C. We walked in, and she introduced me like I was an employee. "This is William," she said, "no, my husband." No warmth. Her cousin Tasha looked me up and down and said, "So you the one who be checking her location?" I blinked because I didn't even have her location. My wife laughed loud. "He swears he's the FBI," she said. Everybody laughed. I forced a smile while my stomach sank. In the car, she said, "Don't be sensitive." Like my dignity was a hobby. Back in Baltimore, she began performing cruelty like it was a talent. She'd leave her messages open on the kitchen counter, just enough for me to see a name with heart emojis. If I asked who it was, she'd shrug. "A friend," she'd say, eyes bored. Then she'd go live on her phone, smiling, flirting with strangers in the comments. If I walked behind her, she'd turn the camera so people could see me and say, "Here you go, y'all." Missed a mood killer. The shame wasn't accidental. It was the point. She started rewriting our arguments in front of people. With my friend Marcus from Newark on speaker, she told him I was emotionally abusive because I didn't like her going out all night. Marcus got quiet. Then he said, "Well, you gotta loosen up, bro." My chest tightened. Marcus knew I wasn't like that. But she said it so confidently, like it was documented fact. After the call, she smiled like she'd scored a point. "See," she said, "even your boy knows you're doing too much." That's when I realized she wasn't just leaving me. She was stealing my reputation. Romantic moments didn't disappear. They got weaponized. She'd cuddle up on the couch, play with my beard, whisper, "You're my safe place." Then the next day, ignore me like I was a stranger asking for directions. One night, I planned a date at the Inner Harbor. Cheap but sweet. Tacos, a walk. Those ridiculous souvenir photos where you pose like you're in a spy movie. She smiled the whole time. I felt hope rising again. Then in the parking lot, she checked her phone, sighed dramatically, and said, "I gotta go. Don't start." She left me holding the photo strip like proof of a dream. The open marriage conversation came on a Tuesday, like she'd scheduled it. She sat at our kitchen table with a calm face, like we were discussing cable packages. "I think I need freedom," she said. "An open marriage." I stared at her like she'd spoken another language. "We married," I said. "You mean divorce?" She shook her head. "No, I want the security of you and the excitement of other people." Then she added the line that cracked something in me. "But it's only for me. You couldn't handle it." She smiled like she'd said something smart. I tried to reason with her, which is what you do when you still believe you're talking to your partner and not your opponent. I asked about counseling. She laughed. "Therapy is for people who can't regulate," she said. I asked if she was already seeing someone. She leaned back and said, "Would it matter?" I felt my face heat up, anger, humiliation, heartbreak, all fighting for space. She watched me like she was studying me. "Don't be dramatic," she said. "Men always want to be victims when women finally choose themselves." It wasn't a conversation. It was a verdict. The humiliation escalated on purpose. She would accidentally mention her dates in front of me. "He loves sushi," she'd say while I was making her favorite shrimp and grits. "He listens," she'd say while I was washing dishes. When I stopped speaking, she called me sulky. When I tried to talk, she called me obsessed. She started sleeping with her phone under her pillow like it was a gun. If I rolled over in bed, she'd sigh like I was inconveniencing her by existing. I started feeling like a guest in my own marriage. The lowest point was that night with the grocery bags. I walked in and saw him. Another black man, clean shoes, confident smile, sitting like he paid rent. She introduced him like a prize. "This is Dre," she said. Dre nodded at me like I was a co-worker. My wife kissed him in front of me, quick, casual, like it was normal. Then she looked at me and said, "Don't act crazy. This is my house, too." My ears rang. I went to the bedroom and shut the door, and I heard them laughing in the living room like my pain was a comedy special. The next morning, she posted a selfie on social media, glowing, captioned, "When you stop letting a man clip your wings, Dove." The comments were a parade of strangers praising her growth. One woman wrote, "Men hate when you choose you." My wife liked the comment. I sat at my desk at work staring at my computer screen like it had answers. My coworker, a black woman named Denise, slid a candy bar across my desk and said, "You look like you're fighting ghosts." I almost cried in front of her. I didn't. I just nodded like I was okay. I tried to talk to her mother, thinking maybe the elders would bring sanity. Her mama listened, then sighed and said, "Baby, women get tired." That was it. No accountability. No concern. Her sister in Philly was worse. She called me soft and said, "A real man wouldn't be getting replaced." I felt my soul shrink. People I'd helped move furniture, people I'd driven to airports, people who'd eaten my food at holidays. Now, they watched me bleed and called it a lesson. My wife soaked it up. She loved having an audience to my suffering. And still, because I'm human, I had moments where I remembered the girl from the cookout. I'd catch her laughing at a meme and see that old smile for half a second. One night, during a thunderstorm, the lights flickered and she yelped and grabbed my arm like she used to. Instinctively, I pulled her close. For one breath, we were almost us. Then her phone buzzed. She pulled away immediately, checked it, and smirked. "He worried about me," she said, and went back to the couch, texting like my arms were never there. The script revealed itself in small, weird ways first. She'd pick fights over things that didn't matter. How I folded towels, the way I said good morning, the fact that I hummed while brushing my teeth. Then she'd repeat certain phrases like they were rehearsed. You're not supporting my journey. You're threatened by my freedom. You're gaslighting me. The words didn't match the moment. Sometimes, after an argument, I'd hear her in the bathroom whispering, practicing lines. When I asked what she was doing, she said, affirmations. But it didn't sound like healing. It sounded like preparation. The real crack opened when she insisted I sign relationship boundaries. She slid papers across the table like a manager at orientation. The pages were full of vague language. Permission to pursue individual fulfillment, agreements about shared assets, weird clauses about content usage. I laughed because it was so absurd. Are we a marriage or a business? I asked. She didn't laugh back. She stared at me cold and said, if you love me, you'll sign. When I refused, she started recording on her phone and said, tell them why you won't let me be happy. Tell them. Who was them? I found out who them was in Atlanta. She said she was going for a weekend conference and begged me not to ruin her opportunity. I drove her to the airport, carried her bag, kissed her cheek. She didn't kiss me back. In the car, I tried one last gentle joke. Bring me back a magnet like I'm a grandma. She rolled her eyes, but I saw a twitch of a smile. When she got home, she was buzzing, excited, distant. She fell asleep on the couch with her laptop open. Something in me said, look, I hated myself for listening. I looked anyway. The folder on her screen was named like a punch. Season outline plus husband beats. My stomach dropped. Inside were documents listing episode moments with bullet points like William confronts, tears, William begs, humiliation, open marriage reveal, public sympathy for wife. There were notes from her cousin Tasha and two friends I recognized from D.C., saying things like, make him seem controlling and need him to explode for the arc. There were draft emails to a small online network, pitching our marriage like a show. My wife wasn't living. She was producing. And my heartbreak was the product. I scrolled further and found the real poison, financial notes. They tracked my paydays, suggested moving money, suggested getting me to sign papers so they could claim rights to our home if we split. They called it protecting the brand. My hands went numb. I didn't scream. I didn't wake her. I took photos of everything, every document, every email, every note. I emailed them to myself and saved them to a private drive. My heart hurt so bad it felt like my ribs were too small. But underneath that pain, a new feeling appeared, clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. The next week, I moved like a man trying to save his life because I froze my credit. I changed passwords. I moved my direct deposit. I gathered bank statements and took them to a lawyer in downtown Baltimore who didn't blink once while I explained. She just said, "You're not crazy. You're targeted." That sentence almost made me collapse. I've been gaslit so hard I forgot my own reality. I stopped arguing with my wife. I stopped defending myself to people who enjoyed misunderstanding me. At home, I became quiet and polite. Not because I forgave her, because I was preparing. My wife hated my silence. Cruel people feed on reaction. Without it, they start swinging harder. She tried baiting me in front of her friends, inviting them over, speaking loud like she wanted a mic. "William don't like confident women," she'd say, sipping wine. I'd just nod and say, "You good?" like I was checking the weather. The room would get awkward. She'd glare. Later she'd whisper, "You're being weird." I'd answer, "I'm tired." She wanted a breakdown. She wanted drama. She wanted me to audition for the role of villain. I refused. The day I filed, she didn't see it coming because she thought she was directing everything. When the papers arrived, she read them like they were a prank, then snapped her head toward me. "You trying to embarrass me?" she asked. I said calm, "You already did that." She laughed, sharp, mean, and said, "Nobody gonna believe you." No remorse. No fear for what she'd done. She only cared that she didn't control the next scene. She called her cousin. She called her friends. She called Dre. She tried to rally her team like a coach at halftime. But the game was already over. Karma hit fast and realistic, like consequences do when they're based on paperwork and evidence. My lawyer sent notices about unauthorized recording and content usage. The network backed away immediately. The friends who cheered her on stopped answering because legal heat makes fake loyalty melt. Then her job called her into HR about using company time and equipment for her project. She came home furious, not sorry. "You sabotaged me," she shouted. I stared at her and said, "No. You gambled. You lost." She slammed doors, threw insults, called me every weak name she could find. I let them fall to the floor. My comeback wasn't loud. It was quiet and private, built in ordinary mornings. I moved into a small place across town, clean and peaceful, where nobody knew our story. I went to therapy and learned I wasn't too sensitive. I was wounded. I finished a certification I've been putting off and landed a better job with a calmer schedule. I started running again, not to punish myself, but to feel my body belonged to me. I cooked real meals. I took myself to the movies. I laughed at dumb jokes without checking if someone approved. The biggest flex was sleeping through the night. Months later, I ran into her at a grocery store in Maryland. She looked the same, sharp, proud, eyes still cold. She didn't ask how I was. She said, "You really ruined everything." No remorse. Not even a hint. I nodded and said, "You wrote the ending." I just stopped acting. Then I walked away with my cart, heart steady. The moral lesson is simple and heavy. Love without respect becomes a cage, and staying loyal to someone who's using you is not strength, it's self-abandonment. Protect your peace. Believe patterns, not promises. And never let anyone turn your pain into their entertainment. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.